Hi, today I'm going to share how I created a time-lapse animation of a bright prominence taken on the 12th of February. So for the session, I plan to do a 30-minute time-lapse. So since the recording time for one individual is about one individual video is about 45 seconds, so I took one video at every 1 minute. So I end up with 30 video, as you can see here. You can see that the time is 1 minute apart. So for half an hour recording, I end up with 30 video. So to do that, in your FireCapture, in this case I'm here showing an interface of the dummy cam, as I don't have a camera attached to my telescope at the moment. So you click on the script button. You can see on the right hand side there's a list of commands which you can put into the script you want to run. So in this case, the first, I'm going to set the recording file type. So I'm going to set the recording file type as AVI file, and the loop. So this loop is how many video you want to capture. So for this session, I plan to take 30 video for 30 minutes. So I'm going to set this to 30. And the next is the time. This is the wait time. So the wait time is a time interval between one recording to another. So I'm going to do one recording every minute. So I'm going to change this to XX01. So then the next is how many frames or how long the video you want to record. So this one is to start capture. So I'll go for the frame. So I'm going to record 1000 frames. And then lastly is end loop. So with this set of command script, the FireCapture is going to capture one video of 1000 frames every 1 minute for 30 video. So once you click on start script, it will start recording. So as usual, after we have done this recording, we are going to put this into AutoStakkert for stacking. So I'm going to enlarge the anchor box to cover some of the movement. And I'm going to analyze. So this is going to take a while. So after the analysis step is done, I'm going to place alignment point grid onto all over the image. And I'm going to stack 300 frames out of 1000 I recorded. Again, this is going to take a while. So after the stacking is done, you end up with 30 images after stack. So the next step, we are going to sharpen these images using the Registax Wavelet setting. So we open one. So how much you want to sharpen, again, is up to you. It's based on your personal preference and also the quality of your image. So you see, this is just a trial and error process. Normally, I'm going to increase this slider to review how much details I can get, and the noise, because if you are going to increase the slider, you are going to introduce some noise and the noise, so that the noise has gone away. After the noise, I'm going to sharpen it a little bit, not much. Most of the details I found is usually on the layer 2. So layer 3 is even a little bit more. The noise a little bit. As you can see, there's some noise, some lines, some artifact maybe, because of the low contrast possibly. So apparently the denoise function can get rid of that quite nicely. So if you are satisfied with the result, you just do all. But usually, if we are going to process one individual image at one time, after do all, we are going to save the image. But for this case, since we are going to deal with 30 images, instead of going to apply this setting one by one to one image at one time, we can use the batch processing, the macro window. So before we do that, we are going to open this window, and we are going to save this current setting of Wavelet setting into a name. So I'm going to choose. I put a date. Usually I use the date. So I'm going to save this Wavelet, and then I put this into the list of command going to run. And then the next, I'm going to save the file. So in this case, I'm going to save it in the TIFF format. So there's a little problem with this, which I'm going to explain later. So I put this line here, and then last, before that, I'm going to put a different name than the original, so that it doesn't overwrite the original file. And lastly, I'm going to put a line close Registax 6. So from what I read from forum, if you don't put this line of close Registax, the macro will run, but while sharpening the image, it's going to introduce some noise. So with adding this line of close Registax 6, it somehow refreshes the whole process. So after we are done with this set of commands, we are going to save this macro with a name. So again, I use the date and save it. So after that, before we run, we are going to close this so that it doesn't run on this image. We close this for now. No. And we are going to relaunch Registax. So after the Registax is relaunched, we're going to Tool, Macro, and we select the command we are going to run and add file. So you end up with the folders. You notice that by default, the macro function, the batch processing function of Registax, only deal with video file. To overcome that, we have a workaround. You just need to type *.* in the file name and open, and then it's going to display all the file type inside the folder. So here we are going to choose all the TIFF file. So you can see that all 30 files are loaded here, and we are going to choose the macro that we are going to run. So before you click run, so I noticed there's a bug or error with this macro batch processing of Registax, is that even though in the previous step when we created the macro list, we have set the file type to be TIFF file, but it's somehow still going to save in the default PNG file. So in order to correct that and you want to save it in a TIFF file, you have to select TIFF again at here before you run, then only you run the command. So the Registax is going to apply the same set of settings, save the resulting image with a W in front, and close it and rerun for the remaining 29 images. So this is going to take a while. So after the Registax part is done, the Wavelet application is done, you end up with the images with the extra W in front, which we set. This can be any other file name that you prefer. So this indicates that this 30 images is after applying the Wavelet. So the next step I'm going to do, I'm going to align these 30 images using Photoshop, because the tracking of the telescope is not perfect. So between one frame to another, the position of the prominence is going to be different. So if we are going to proceed to do an animation straight away, you can see that the prominence will be jumping here and there. So we'll have to align this the individual frames so that they are aligned perfectly, as perfect as possible, so that the animation is going to smooth. So in Photoshop, you go to File, Script, and select Load File into Stack. So this function is going to load all the selected photos as layer into a one single file. So you browse to the folder, you sort them. So you're going to end up with, go to the one with the W in front, which is after applying the wavelet, and then you just click OK, and it's going to place the individual pictures on top of one of another. This may take a little while, depends on how many images you are going to put in. So here we end up with 30 images. Usually for my own preference or my habit, I usually put the first frame at the bottom. So I'm going to rearrange all this layer, reverse. Another thing is the orientation of the image. So for the telescope I'm using, since there's a diagonal being used, so one of the axes is going to flip. So in this case, the image is actually left-right flip. The prominence is actually on the northeastern limb. So I'm going to flip this image horizontally. So this is a correct orientation of the prominence as viewed from the telescope. And next, you are going to hide all the layers except the bottom one. So you're going to show the top one. So as you toggle the wheel, you can see that the position is different. So you just correct it when you reposition the frame with reference to the one in the bottom. So if you want too easy, I just reduce the opacity of the layer to 50% so that I can see where it's supposed to be overlap, and then I change it back to 100%. You can quickly change the opacity of the layer using the keyboard number. Okay, for example, if you press 5, it's going to change the opacity to 50%. If you press 0, it's going to change the opacity to 100%. So with your hand on the keyboard ready, you just quickly move them. Okay, if you are happy, then you just proceed to the next frame. You repeat the same thing and change the opacity. Okay, roughly position it. Fine tune the position. Okay, so you're going to repeat all this for the 30 images, for the 30 layer, because you have 30 images. So you want to make sure all the position of every, the prominence in every single frame is correct on top of each other instead of all position. So after you have done the aligning all the 30 images, you can quickly check through and hide the one linear and check through. You can use a keyboard shortcut to scroll through the photos, the layers, just using the alternate and close and left and right bracket. Okay. Alternate and right bracket is moving up, left bracket is moving down. So you can quickly check through whether the alignment is okay or which frame is not okay. So make sure this is kind of like a preview of the animation. So after that, usually I'm going to crop the image to take away this not so nice edge. I usually use the 2:3 ratio. So you can just choose the area which you think probably get rid of the edge. You can adjust it later after you check the sequence again. So again, go back. So you see that there's some edge that are not cropped away. So I'm going to crop again, smaller. Check again. Make sure all the edge I get rid of. Here is the one. It seems like all looks good. So the next step I'm going to do is to add color to this image. So there are different ways of adding colors to the black and white or monochrome solar images. So for hydrogen alpha imaging, I usually prefer the way using a curve. So I'll add a layer of curve above. What you do is you are going to adjust the channel differently. For example, for red, I'm going to increase a little bit of the red. Green. You can play around with a different setting to achieve the color you like. You can play the curve. And if the thing overall is a little bit too dark, you just increase the brightness. Okay, if you're happy with it, then just leave it there. And then the next is, this is optional, whether you want to cover the surface of the sun, which is much overexposed, as you can see. Some people will just leave it like that, and some people will going to cover it with a black, so that you can focus more on the prominence. So to do that, you can either randomly create a, for example, let's see if I new layer, you can just create a black this. You can cover the black this. You can just draw a circular like this. Maybe you just resize this accordingly. And this is just a rough guide. So if you are going to do it with this method, you are going to do a lot of trial and error to get the correct size to cover that. But I have another method, which is I have an Excel table which I created for different combination of the equipment I use, so that I can get the correct size of the black circle that I can use to cover the surface. So for this, I will need to know the field of view of the camera, and the sensor size. So in order to know the field of view of the camera, I use a software called the Ron Wodowski CCD calculator, where I can put in the information of the telescope and the camera, so I can get a field of view value here. So 13.6 and 18.1. Okay, this is at 1x. So if you are going to use a 3x value like I do, so there is a value, I can put 3. So it's a 4.5 times 6 arc minute. 4.5 times 6 arc minute. And then my sensor size for QHY 5L2M is a 960 times 1280. So, and then I get the angular size of the sun for this particular day at this time using software. Like for example, I use Sky Safari. So if I put this in, then I can use the formula to calculate what is the size of the pixel size of the solar disk. So in this case, it's 6933. So what I do here is I'm going to create a circle. Okay, I'm going to create a circle. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to create a circle, X circle, and resize it to 6933 pixel. So this should be more or less accurate to cover the surface of the sun. So this way you won't get distracted by the bright surface of the sun. So this is the part where we do the alignment and get the file ready to create the animation. The next step is we are going to do the animation window. We're going to display the timeline. So if sometimes I'm not sure how this works, but sometimes it's going to have all the frame ready, and usually I prefer to do it all over. So I just select all frame, with frames. So I'm going to make frames from layer, and on the first frame, make sure I check the length and also the color. So you can see that all the frame following frames is going to change to the same way. And then this last two, I'm also not sure why they are here, so I'm going to just delete them. So the next step is I'm going to change the time of the play time of each frame. So for example, let's try 0.1 second. You can just play and see how the animation goes. So if you think it's too fast, then you can try 0.2. If you think it's too slow, then maybe just reduce it. So in my case, I'll settle with 0.15 second. You can choose others. 0.15 second. Okay, so this looks okay for me. So after you're saving your file and you're happy with the setting for the animation, what you do next is go to File, Export, Render Video. So give your video a name and set the folder where to save it to, and you can change or set the document the video size. In this case, I just use the document size, which is the size of the image which I cropped earlier, and then just choose Render. So since this is not going to deal with a lot of frames, just 30 frames, it's going to be quite rather quickly. Okay, so you go back to the program. So this is the video. As you can see, this is only a 5-second video. So it looks okay. So that's it.